Ian Watkins had it all. Adoring fans due to the success of his band Lostprophets, millions of pounds in the bank, and offers to play some of the biggest festivals around the world. However, Watkins was in fact two people. One, the talented musician, the other, one of the most depraved paedophiles the UK has ever seen, who used his fame to abuse his fans and gain access to children. Welcome to Evil Among Us. Ian Watkins was born on the 30th of July 1977 in Wales and met his future Lostprophets bandmate Mike Lewis whilst they were still at school. Their love of music led to them forming their first band as teenagers who used to play in Watkins' garage. After being in a number of bands, in 1997 Watkins, Lewis and several other musicians formed the rock band Lostprophets, who made their live debut in 1997. The band initially only saw limited success in the South Wales scene, playing gigs at venues across Wales, including Newport. It was the release of their debut album The Fake Sound of Progress in 2000 which brought them to wider attention, and from there the band's fan base exploded, leading to Lostprophets playing support for bands such as Linkin Park and Deftones, as well as headlining gigs of their own. Over the next 12 years the band released 4 more records, sold 3.5 million albums worldwide, and played some of the biggest festivals in the world, including Glastonbury. They earned particular success in the UK with the songs Last Train Home and Rooftops. This next clip shows Watkins talking about the band's comeback after a hiatus in 2012.
Kind of weird because to us, we've never been away from ourselves. Americans forget that there are other countries out there. There's a whole world outside of America, you know. The last record didn't come out in America, but, you know, went platinum in the UK and we did, you know, tours, just toured it constantly, and it was like, and then on this new record, this is our first record on a major label in the UK, because all the other ones have been on an indie. It's kind of weird. It's not that like we'd forgotten or given up on America, because like 4 of the guys live in LA, you know what I mean, and married American girls, so they're like, we gotta tour America, and I'm like, well, you know, yeah, cool, but if not, you know what I mean, like I love playing America, but I'm not gonna lose sleep over it, you know what I mean, it's kind of, but then.
However, there would be no comeback. By the point of this interview, Watkins was mere weeks away from being arrested for horrific crimes he committed, including the sexual abuse of babies. What's even worse is that the police had known about these crimes for years and had had numerous opportunities to stop him. Concerns related to Watkins were reported as early as 2008, 4 years before his arrest. In December of that year, a former partner of Watkins called social services and said that he'd given their infant child cocaine and touched him inappropriately. This information was passed to South Wales Police, but was not acted upon. By this point, Watkins had already taken advantage of underage fans, including the previous year in 2007, when he'd abused a teenage girl who was a virgin. Watkins got her to dress in a schoolgirl's outfit and videoed them having sex, orally, vaginally and anally. He asked her whether she enjoyed being his, quote, underage slut. He also urinated on her face and told her to drink it. In March 2010, information was passed to South Wales Police that Watkins was involved in child pornography and that he had stated that he wished to engage in sexual acts with children. In June 2010, information was again sent to South Wales Police claiming that Watkins was in possession of child pornography and had claimed to have molested a 4-year-old, and he was using social media platforms to groom underage boys and girls. Just 2 months later, in August 2010, South Wales Police received yet another report about Watkins, this time stating he forced young girls from the age of 14 to have sex with him after gigs and recorded the acts on his laptop. Watkins also claimed to have gone on social media, threatening the children that he abused, telling them that he'd get people to come round and, quote, sort them out if they told anyone. Watkins repeatedly boasted and bragged about his behaviour and how he wanted to escalate his offending. It's clear that he thought he was untouchable. In May 2011, this woman, Joanne Majalix, a former partner of Watkins, made a complaint about police inaction surrounding his behaviour. This clip shows part of an interview with her, where she describes her interactions with Watkins.
began telling me about all the underage fans that he took the virginity of, and he was proud of it, and how he abused them, and how his favourite video that he had was of a 14-year-old schoolgirl stripping off and saying her name and date of birth to the camera just before he took her virginity, and just all the other vile things that he said he'd done to these fans. And that, I would say to him, stop talking. I don't want to hear it. Just stop talking. It's upsetting me. He started saying that he wanted to get me pregnant just so that he could rape our daughter.
In February 2012, a man made a report to South Wales Police stating his daughter might have been molested by Watkins, who had filmed the assault. There were more reports, including in April 2012, when an Australian national contacted South Wales Police and said that Watkins had boasted about getting a 13-year-old high and having sex with her, and that he hoped she fell pregnant. Watkins also boasted about drugging other young girls to have sex with, and his hopes that they too would get pregnant. In June 2012, South Wales Police were contacted by another individual who stated that Watkins had, quote, an unnatural interest in children, and that he had texted her saying he wanted to drug and rape a baby. So South Wales Police were contacted by multiple people separately, all of whom basically made the same accusations about Watkins, that he was an unrepentant paedophile, and they did nothing. We'll return to this later. However, there was one report which gave an indication of the depravity of Watkins, and which brings up the worst offences he committed. In March 2012, South Yorkshire Police were contacted by a woman, known only as B to this day, who said that she believed that Watkins had sexually assaulted her 10-month-old son at a hotel in Cardiff. She also said there were rumours that Watkins had raped a 5-year-old. However, despite this report, B would end up in the court with Watkins, and her abuse of trust of her son is nothing short of sickening. Court records state that B met Watkins in late 2011 when she was 19 years old. She was a fan of the Lostprophets and was soon in communication with Watkins. B was a mother with a newborn baby, and had contacted Watkins, including them discussing him raping this child. B and Watkins met in a hotel in Cardiff in March 2012 after the pair discussed abusing the child, with B texting Watkins, quote, tell me if you want to get your dick in our boy. They had also both discussed drugging the child. Whether B called police because she was having second thoughts is uncertain, but what is clear is that just a month later, she was fully under Watkins' spell and would do whatever he wanted. Between the 2nd of April and the 3rd of April 2012, B and Watkins stayed in a hotel in London, and she, quote, presented her 10-month-old son to be raped by Watkins. He penetrated this child's mouth with his penis and tried to anally rape him. These acts were filmed, with B heard encouraging Watkins. Then, again whilst being filmed, B sexually abused her own son, including sucking his penis. On the 2nd of August 2012, Watkins sent B a message saying, quote, to be honest though, I think we have gone easy on him so far. Time to teach him and make him learn to love it. There was a second meeting at a hotel in Wales in September 2012, and after this meeting, B sent a picture to Watkins of her licking her son's penis. Anonymity has been given to both mother and child in this case, but obviously that child is still out there, and, inevitably, one day will have questions about their mother. God knows what they'll be told, and how finding out the truth would destroy their entire life. Also in the dock with Watkins was P, another mother who utterly betrayed the trust of her child, this time a baby girl. P was in her early 20s when she began communicating with Watkins in August 2012. Not long afterwards, the pair spoke about abusing her baby girl and moving in together. One of the text message exchanges went as follows. Watkins stated, quote, if you belong to me, so does your baby. P replied stating, quote, understandable, a mother-daughter slave duo worshipping you. Watkins said, quote, that's all she will know, a life of filth. The contact continued and involved conversations about P and her baby daughter performing oral sex on Watkins and their plan to drug this little girl and force her to have sex with animals. Watkins did not get his hands on this girl, but he watched via webcam whilst P penetrated her daughter's vagina with her finger, and she also sent him pictures of her genitals. None of the calls to the police led to any action, and eventually Watkins' downfall was due to his arrest in September 2012 following the execution of a drugs warrant. This resulted in computers, mobile phones and storage devices being seized, resulting in his sexual offending being exposed. In order to break the code on his laptop, South Wales Police had to employ the services of GCHQ, the UK's communication intelligence agency. On screen is the password that unbelievably was found to be on Watkins' laptop. Watkins appeared in Cardiff Magistrates Court in December 2012, along with B and P, who had been identified and arrested due to the content of his computer. Watkins' barrister indicated that he would plead innocent to all offences. All three were remanded into custody. However, likely realising there was no way he could explain the material on his computer, mobile phones, etc., on the 26th of November 2013, Watkins pleaded guilty to 13 offences, including attempted rape and sexual assault of a child under 13, 3 counts of sexual assault involving children, 6 counts of taking, making or possessing indecent images of children, and 1 count of possessing an extreme pornographic image involving a sex act on an animal. Both B and P pleaded guilty to sexually assaulting their children, as well as facilitating Watkins abusing them. Sentence was set for the 18th of December 2013. During the sentencing hearing, the depravity and remorselessness of Watkins was laid bare, not only the seriousness of the offences, but his behaviour since being remanded into custody. Specifically, a few days before his sentence, Watkins was recorded on a prison phone call saying, quote, "I do my charm, or do I end up making things worse for myself, or do I just say I was off my head and can't remember?" He also said that he was going to release a statement saying that his abuse of children was, quote, "mega lols," whilst also stating, quote, "I don't know what everyone is getting so freaked out about." During the hearing, and showing the coward that he is, Watkins, through his barrister, claimed that he could indeed not remember his sexual abuse against the children of B and P. None of this was accepted by the judge. Reference was made to a probation pre-sentence report where the author outlined their conversation with Watkins, who described wishing to push ever more extreme sexual boundaries. They assessed him as a dangerous sexual offender and wrote, quote, "It's also my assessment that the child victims in this case appear to be coincidental to his need to dominate and to test out the extent to which his sexual partners would collude and participate in his sexual interests." A police investigator said that Watkins was probably the most dangerous sex offender he had ever seen. Justice John Royce stated that the offences collectively, quote, "plumbed new depths of depravity." He also stated, in reference to Watkins, quote, "I'm satisfied that you are a deeply corrupting influence. You are highly manipulative. You are a sexual predator. You are dangerous. The public, and in particular young females and children, need protection from you." Turning to Woman P and Woman B, Justice Royce outlined their unspeakable actions and identified that both had utterly abused the trust placed in them as mothers. He then sentenced them. Ian Watkins was sentenced to 35 years in prison. He has to serve at least 19 years before he can apply for parole. Woman P was sentenced to 17 years in prison, to serve half in prison prior to release and the other half to be spent in the community monitored by probation. Woman B was sentenced to 14 years in prison. Again, half of this is served in prison, half in the community being monitored. By my calculation, both B and P will have been released by now. Watkins likely has another 9 years to serve before he can even apply for release. As the expression goes, how the mighty have fallen. Watkins went from a life of luxury to a 60-foot square cell at H&P Prison Wakefield a Category A prison in Wakefield, West Yorkshire, dubbed the quote monster mansion due to the high number of highly dangerous sex offenders who reside in the establishment. However, finally being caught for his crimes and time behind bars appears to have had little impact on Watkins, and he remains a highly dangerous sex offender. In 2017, it was reported that Watkins had been corresponding with a 21-year-old fan in which he joked about her toddler watching her have sex. Whether Watkins still considers his offences mega lols is unclear. What is apparent is that he is where he should be, and the fame that he used to groom and abuse others will inevitably come back to haunt him, as it will be this fame, and now infamy, which will mean that when he is eventually released, he will not have a moment's peace when the papers track his location and report his movements, likely for the rest of his life. As already stated, there were numerous chances to catch Watkins years before his eventual arrest, and this led to an investigation by the Independent Police Complaints Commission, the IPCC, who published a report in the summer of 2016. Within this, they said that 3 detectives from the South Wales force should face disciplinary action after they failed to act on earlier allegations. The report concluded, quote, "The consequence of the force's failings was arguably that a predatory paedophile offended over an extended period of time. The evidence obtained in this investigation suggests that South Wales police were faced with a litany of reports about his behaviour, yet in some instances did not carry out even rudimentary investigation, made errors and omissions, and missed opportunities to bring him to justice earlier than he ultimately was." South Wales police accepted the findings of the report and expressed regret for the handling of the Watkins case. However, I can see that one detective was cleared of misconduct, and I cannot find any information about action being taken against the other 2, so it would seem that nothing actually happened as a result of the police's failings in this case. I have no doubt that Watkins' brazen behaviour and his remorselessness before and after his conviction is because he bought into this idea that as a celebrity he was untouchable and the rules of normal people do not apply. Unfortunately, this seems to be a common problem. In the UK, the name of Jimmy Savile will go down in infamy as one of the most depraved sex offenders the country has ever seen, but also because he was never convicted in his lifetime, despite everyone knowing what he was. I'm struggling to believe that if Watkins had just been a random guy, that South Wales police would not have arrested him in 2 seconds flat. So, do you think that part of the issue in this case was Watkins being given a pass because he was a celebrity? Why is it that we give celebrities so much leniency and somehow place them above us? Or was it just police incompetence? Or both? Do you think Ian Watkins is one of the most dangerous paedophiles you've heard of? The opinions I provide in my videos are my own thoughts. I'm happy to be corrected, and I'm always interested in other people's points of view, so feel free to comment and suggest any topics for future videos. Anyway, thank you for watching. See you in the next one.